What up, Hyperchange? Welcome to another episode. Today we're going to cover Snapchat's Q4 2017 earnings, hot off the press, just got off the conference call. I thought this was going to be an awful quarter. I was prepared for this to be a bloodbath. Instead, the stock is up 20% after hours. They reported a beat on revenue, their profitability improved, usage on the app was up, all the numbers are headed in the right direction. Snap needed this quarter so badly, so let's dive into the numbers and get right into it. First number that I watch for Snapchat is daily active users. This is the most important metric to track how many people are logging into the app on average every day during the quarter. They reported a massive beat here with 187 million. The user growth rate was slowing down dramatically, only 17% in Q3, but this quarter actually upticked a little to 18%, and I don't think it's any coincidence that this was right when Instagram Stories launches. We could see that Snapchat really took a hit, but once again, this is the first uptick we've seen in the user growth rate for Snapchat since Instagram Stories came out. This is a huge, I was not expecting this at all. I was expecting a continued deceleration, but they popped, and revenue growth, as you can see, has been slowing down dramatically since 2016. But once again, like user growth, it actually accelerated a tiny amount in Q4. So not only is user growth picking up the pace, but so is revenue growth. This is exactly the quarter that Snap needed. In terms of the financials, revenue of 286 million was up an impressive 72% year over year. But of course, Snapchat continues to struggle in terms of profitability, lost $361 million in the quarter. Now, it is important to note, this is a huge improvement from the loss of about $450 million just a quarter before. So they are getting a lot more profitable. It's headed in the right direction, but Snapchat is still a business that loses a ton of money each quarter. The reason why is because of Snap's gross margin. Prior to Q4, the company's gross margin had been about at break even, and this is really problematic for a company. Software companies, you'd expect to have very high gross margins. Snapchat has a very expensive cost structure with the fact they need to host all these videos, and that was dragging down gross margin. But as you can see in Q4, we just had a monster breakout, the highest Snapchat's gross margin has ever been by far, 33% on a GAAP basis. This is a big deal. We are seeing the business model evolve more profitably. This is exactly what we need to see happening if Snap is ever going to have a fighting chance at making it in the long run. Quick note on their IPO cash burn was down dramatically in the quarter. They burned about 250 million, which sounds like a lot, but they had burned about $1 billion in the previous 2 quarters. And although they are still burning a lot of cash, they still do have a cushion of about $2 billion left. If we take a step back, looking on an annual basis, you can see that Snapchat's revenue growth has been incredibly impressive, but so are the company's losses. They continue to lose more and more money each year. Now, it's important to note, I took off $2 billion of their 2017 expenses. It would have been about 3.5 billion of a loss, but about 2 billion of those were non-cash related expenses related to the IPO. Those are one-time items, so I removed those to give you a sense of what the core business is doing. And as you can see, it looks pretty ugly. Snap is growing, but they got to control this loss eventually. So if you put a gun to my head and I had to predict what Snapchat's financials were going to look like in 2018, I am projecting revenue of $1.25 billion, and they're going to draw in that loss to about $900 million. Those are the financials for you. Now let's get into a couple notes from the conference call. Snapchat and Bitmoji were the #1 and #2 apps in all of the App Store in 2017. This is huge, so awesome job for that. They've expanded beyond the Snapchat ad, with Bitmoji also seeing tremendous success. During the quarter, they launched a bunch of partnerships with wireless carriers to make it so the Snapchat app used a lot less data. This was done in over a dozen countries. They're saying that a lot more people have been using the app now that it takes up less data, so that's a really promising sign. One of the biggest hurdles for Snapchat, especially in emerging markets, has been the fact that their app uses so much data, so it's really promising to see them working on that and making progress. Additionally, they recently rolled out Stories everywhere, which is something that I've reported on Hyperchange as well, which is essentially you can watch a Snap story on other platforms, Facebook and Twitter. Eventually, I think this is going to start getting integrated into cable TV shows. They even said they partnered with certain stadiums during the Rose Bowl. You could watch snaps. This is really important. This has been one of the backbones of Twitter's most successful strategy, which is allowing other places to show tweets and use them for reporting purposes. Snapchat is getting into this with Stories everywhere. They launched this new thing called Lens Studio, which allows users to create their own lenses and kind of play with new augmented reality products. This is one of the most mainstream augmented reality platforms out there right now, and the new Lens Studio had already had, in just 6 weeks, 30,000 lenses created that were viewed over 1 billion times. They want to expand this heavily. Also, the Snap Redesign is going to be a key evolution of Snapchat. Snap's business. This is something that they talked about in the last earnings call, where they want to separate, your friends on one side of the app and then discover, media, publishers, content creators on the other side of the app. They think is going to be a really promising evolution of Snapchat, streamline the app, make it simpler, make it clearer. They said that Redesign is going out to the entire Snapchat community in Q1 2018. Initial trials for that are showing significantly higher engagement on the app and higher monetization for Snapchat. So if that holds, it looks like the redesign is headed in the right direction. Spiegel in general sounded a lot more confident on the call. So did everyone else in management. A couple last notes here. Turner Novak, who I think you guys all have to follow on Twitter, the best Snap analyst that I can find. He went on a huge tweet storm about some of it before, some of it after Snap earnings, about what he's thinking. You guys should definitely check that out. But a couple tidbits from that. He showed me the Snap Lenses Reddit page, which actually already has 115,000 subscribers, creators, developers that are building content around this new Snapchat Lenses product. He thinks this is the beginning of Snapchat pivoting into an entire AR type of platform that is going to be a huge market long term, and I kind of agree with him here. I think that Snapchat is leading in this regard. I can't think of much, augmented reality moves that Instagram has made. Snapchat just has them beat in this angle, and they are doubling down on it. This is a really strong bright spot in the Snap bull thesis. Additionally, he hammers home the point that half of the entire population from 14 to 34 in the US is going on Lenses every single week, or interacting with Lenses every single week. And this is the evidence that's showing that Snap has the early lead in the augmented reality future that we all know is coming. In conclusion, this was a really impressive quarter to me. I haven't been shy about the fact that I think Snapchat is dying because Instagram stories replicated their main product. And although I think it's a little bit of a low blow for Zuckerberg to copy Snapchat so heavily, it shows that Snap is the innovator. I thought it was going to crush Snap and they didn't have a chance. But this quarter, they've actually grown their user base more than ever than in the past year. They're seeing better revenue. They're cutting down their costs. They're streaming down their operating model. Things are all headed in the right direction for Snapchat. If they can make it through this massive firestorm of an Instagram attack and continue to stay one step ahead by innovating with augmented reality products like the Lens Studio, then Snapchat really has a fighting chance here. In the future, I think they're going to continue to double down on hardware products. I still think Spectacles 2 are definitely in the works, and they could be really groundbreaking in terms of what they can do with augmented reality features. I just think Wall Street does not get Snapchat because everybody using the app is Gen Z. It's people younger than me. Even I'm too old for Snapchat. Like, I've stopped snapping, and none of my friends snap anymore. We all use Instagram stories. I can see it clearly, but apparently with younger people, Snapchat is still the go-to. In terms of valuation, I still think the stock is pretty expensive here. At a share price of $17, if this is where this opens tomorrow, assuming about 1.4 billion shares outstanding, Snapchat has a market capitalization of about $24 billion today. And for a company that just did 800 and something million in revenue, we're looking at about a 25 times or 30 times price sales multiple on trailing sales. On forward sales, that compresses to maybe more 15 or 20x times price sales, but still really expensive for a company that's losing money. I get that they have 187 million daily active users, which is super valuable, but until the model gets more profitable and they really prove that they're fending off Instagram, I will not be convinced of the bull case. That being said, this was an incredible step in the right direction. Congratulations, Snapchat and Evan Spiegel, for an awesome quarter. Keep up the great work. This is Hyperchange. I'll see you guys next time. Leave your comments and ideas on the quarter below in the comments. I'll check them out. See you guys next time.